Steering Committee members Mkhulu Dlamini, who is also from the Royal Eswatini Sugar Corporation, and will, for the next hour, show us all how to get our ducks in a row. I do request that your mics are muted and that your video cameras are switched off. Any questions you may have and comments can be shared within the chat. Please be advised that the use of any external, AI note-taking tools is strictly forbidden during webcasts, virtual sessions, and online events. Do note that the presentation and recording will be shared with all after the session and be made available from our website. It is now my pleasure to hand over to Mkhulu. It is all yours, and I say enjoy the session, everyone.
Hi, Tracy. Hi, everyone. Thank you for your time, for joining this presentation. I just decided to share my camera. Can everyone see me? It's a bit different when you're trying to show your face and also trying to look at the presentation so that everyone can follow. But yeah, I just decided to show my face so that people can see who the face behind the voice before I dive into the presentation. So it's a great honor to be here. A great honor to be sharing our story as Royal Eswatini Sugar, our story of our move to S/4HANA public cloud. This is a sort of like a curtain raiser for a presentation to come on the 5th of November, which I encourage everyone to sign up for. That one will be focused on the data migration and data management as we went through the journey of moving to S/4HANA. So that one will be more focused on data management and data migration. So your questions on data and how we decommissioned and how we were able to use the templates with our move to public cloud, that presentation will be on the 5th of November, and it will be done by Joy Nxumalo-Litla. So yeah, let's dive into today's presentation. Hi, is everyone there?
We lost you a bit there, Mkhulu. Would you like to share again?
Yes, I'll share. Instead of pressing close, I pressed leave. Sorry, everyone, for that.
We welcome you back.
Let me share my presentation again. Yeah. So getting your ducks in a row. Our journey as Royal Eswatini Sugar to S/4HANA, and the reason why I titled my talk as "Getting Your Ducks in a Row" is because there's a lot of preparation that needs to go in before you actually get to where you want to be in terms of your move to S/4HANA. And the destination is a destination, but it's very important to make sure that you do all the groundwork and spend the requisite time you need to spend to get yourself prepared for a move to S/4HANA, because it's not just like any other move, like maybe it's just a simple help desk call. No, it's not like that. It's a huge project, and it's a culture change that needs to be given the time and effort and attention that it requires, with everyone involved, change management, strategy, executives, and everyone on the ground needs to be bought in and involved and included in this move. So it's very important to make sure that all your ducks are in a row and that you are prepared for such a move. So that's what I will do today. I will tell the story of how we did that, and maybe you will find some encouragement if you are in that process to know that there's a company that did it. Maybe we didn't do it as well as you guys are currently doing it, but then you will know that even though we didn't do it that well, but we still got to the finish line. So that might be some encouragement to you. But before we move on, some background on Royal Eswatini Sugar. We are a sugar cane producing and sugar manufacturing company, and we produce over 22,000 hectares of irrigated sugar cane. And then there's an additional 5,000 plus hectares of farms that we manage for third parties and produce sugar cane for them, and then we crush that sugar cane for them, and then we just give them the proceeds of that. We also produced over 437,000 tons of sugar. And additionally to that, we also produce over 160,000 tons of refined sugar. So the 96 pole sugar, for those of you who don't know, would just be your raw sugar, your brown sugar, as you may. And then the refined sugar would be your white sugar. But then we also do a whole lot of other sugar products that are not just brown and white sugar, some specialized sugars that you might find in some specialized shops as well. And then we also have an ethanol plant where we produce over 35 million liters of ethanol. And we are such a relatively huge company for such a small country. We have over 4,500 employees. And in 2014, we decided to move to SAP as our source of truth and as our ERP. And we just went full big bang, around 25 SAP modules that we implemented at that time. And it was a huge undertaking and a lot of help from consultants, a lot of input from business, and everyone was just basically pitching tents at the IT office trying to get that to work. So that's just a brief background for those of you who might not know about Royal Eswatini Sugar. And then before I dive into the story and telling you about our journey, there is a quote from Malcolm Gladwell. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called The Tipping Point. I think it was in 2001. It's still a relevant book. And I think if you haven't read it, I would highly encourage that you do read it. It's called The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. And in the book, there's a quote that I really like. And it says, "We have, in short, somehow become convinced that we need to tackle the whole problem all at once. But the truth is that we don't. We only need to find the sticky tipping points." And what he argues is that in every huge undertaking, you don't have to focus on doing everything all at once, but in every huge undertaking, there's only a few tipping points that if you just push those over and just tip those over, then everything else will fall into place. And if you're familiar maybe with the 80-20 rules, it's the same thinking behind that you 80% of your productivity lies within 20% of the work that you're actually doing. So today I will focus on the few sticky ticking points that we recognized and we focused on and honed in on as Royal Eswatini Sugar. And then we will tell the story using those 3 sticky tipping points. But before we move on, there's a video I like to play for you. So that's the video where we actually went live, and that's us clicking the button and availing the system to all the users for them to use. You will realize that there's a few hand claps and not a lot of smiles. That's not because we weren't happy, but it was because we had been camping at the office for 3 weeks straight without any breaks trying to get this to work. So when we got to that point, we were very excited and also very much in need of a rest and a break. So what I've decided is to start at the end by showing you that we did get to the end point, and then go back and try to detail the journey that we took, because sometimes it's good to know that, okay, there's a good ending to this story, because maybe some of you might feel like we didn't get to where we wanted to go. So that's the ending. That's where we wanted to get to. So why did we decide to move to S4 HANA Public Cloud? So organizationally, we decided to start a journey of digital transformation. And so part of that digital transformation journey was realizing or pinpointing the things that we need to do to be a digital company. So in terms of us being getting into the digital transformation journey, we had to look at how does it tie into our strategy? And so some of the strategy points for our organizational strategy was like improving business process management capability, increasing productivity, increasing operational efficiency, increasing the use of value add technology, and also like increasing stakeholder engagement and satisfaction. And so those are the ones that really stood out of our strategy as an organization. And so we felt that there was a need for us to move to cloud. And then once we had decided that we need to move to cloud as part of our digital transformation journey, then the decision needed to be made of where are we going? Like, which cloud platform are we using? Like, we had to be honest with ourselves and ask ourselves, do we even still want to be using SAP? How has SAP treated us? In the past, having used it from 2014, are we happy with what we have? And then we had to be honest with ourselves in doing so. So the reason we decided to move this way was because of our digital transformation journey. It wasn't just for the hype and for saying like a badge of honor and saying we have moved to SAP S/4HANA, but it was a strategic thing for us, and it had to make sense in our strategy for us to do so. And so the three sticky tipping points that I will focus on is executive alignment, technology, and the implementation process that we decided to use as RES. Obviously, because with executive alignment, everyone will know we need to get buy-in from the top for most strategic projects, so that you can have that support whenever you get to some areas where it gets difficult. So you need to have that executive alignment and executive buy-in for you to be able to proceed successfully in that process. And then the technology, as I've already mentioned, we had to be honest with ourselves and look at what's the best technology for RES moving forward. Like, as we embark on this digital transformation journey, what's the best technology that gives us the most competitive advantage and that gives us the most chance and opportunity to be successful in achieving that digital transformation that we were seeking to achieve. And then the implementation basically is what process did we use as a company to try to implement S/4HANA and finally go live as you saw in that video. So firstly, with executive alignment, like I've already mentioned, and as most of us know, sometimes it goes without saying, but sometimes when you say things go without saying, it means that they get brushed off and that they're not focused on. But for us, we felt like this is something that we really need to do. Get the executives to align and executives also meaning the board of directors as well, because they had to be in on this as well. So we decided to get executives in alignment. As you can see in this cartoon, on the far right, that's the MD driving the tractor. And then he's driving the tractor and he has all the general managers and all the executive committee team behind him, because it's pulling them towards and along the digital transformation journey. So we felt that this was very important, because once the executives are aligned and once the executives know what is happening, why it's happening, and how it's supposed to happen, then we were going to be able to not have a smooth journey into S/4HANA public cloud, but sort of get that support so that whenever we hit a roadblock or wherever we are hitting a wall, the executives will be there to support and provide the necessary assistance that was needed at that time. So we decided to get the executives all in one room, hold a workshop for them, do everything that needed to be done for executives to understand, also get to deal with their questions that they had, maybe if they had some apprehensions, maybe if they weren't comfortable with SAP and everything like that. So we needed to get the leadership to be aligned with the move into cloud and the move into S/4HANA public cloud specifically, so that we get that support. And we feel like that was one of the major things that helped us to be successful and helped us to be able to go live with S/4HANA. And then secondly, the technology. There was a team that was put together, a cross-departmental team with people from varying like parts of the business and also stages of their career in the business to build a value case for move to cloud and also why move to S4HANA. Also, the reason why I say why move to S4HANA is because, like you can see there on this slide, one of the major questions that we had to ask was, should we continue using SAP? Because we had been using SAP since 2014. We had experience with SAP since 2014. Maybe some of you might feel like that wasn't such a long time because some of you maybe have been using SAP since the 90s or maybe early 2000s. But for us, we figured that since we went big bang with SAP and we disrupted everything in the business with the move to SAP as our ERP system, we had to be honest with ourselves and step back and say, let's look at everything that we have achieved or how we are being efficient or maybe inefficient with using SAP, and then decide if SAP is still our software provider of choice. And so the value case was supposed to help with that. And so the team went and they developed the value case, presented it to the executives, to the board, and then it was approved. And the technology that we had decided to use was SAP S/4HANA Public Cloud. And I know a lot of companies want to, and maybe it makes sense for some companies to use the private cloud, but for us, it made a lot of sense to go public cloud, just for us to be able to standardize the processes and live sort of like the technology to SAP for them to do the upgrades and everything. And it also helps us with scalability as well. And we feel like it is providing us a huge opportunity to be innovative as a business, because we can extend everything that we have as standard processes in SAP S/4HANA, and we can extend that through BTP with doing extensions and APIs and other applications that are available using BTP and all the tools that are available in BTP. So we decided to move to a public S/4HANA public cloud, but then that meant that we had to look at every single process in the business and try to align it to SAP standard processes. And it sounds easy at first, but like when you have sugar production company that is also a farm that also produces ethanol, that also has the residential villages, so it's like a real estate company as well, and we have schools that we support and communities that we support as well. It gets very difficult to align every single process in the business with SAP standard processes. So that's the bulk of the work that we did was trying to get every single process to align with standard SAP, and then try to extend everything that we can't align and find ways to extend it outside so we can maintain that clean core within SAP S/4HANA public cloud. Okay. Then I have some lovely pictures of RES, and that is my cue to take a water break and drink some coffee while you guys are admiring some of these pictures. Okay. The last sticky tipping point for us was implementation. So it was decided when the board and the executives agreed to move to S/4HANA public cloud that we're going to move to S/4HANA public cloud. However, we're not going to do it the way we did it in 2014. So there will be no big bang, that we'll do things in stages and phases. So we started last year by implementing plant maintenance. Excuse me. So the plant maintenance team was very heavily involved there. And then we went live with plant maintenance, and then we were able to monitor the use of S/4HANA and the efficiencies that we were gaining from using S/4HANA on the plant maintenance side. And I think that is very important to do it in phases, because then what happened for us, or what ended up being a good thing for us, was that then the plant maintenance team, we could take some of those people and put them into the meetings where we were looking at the processes for every other module that we were going live with this year. And then now it's better to have someone else from business tell you that they have moved from ECC to S/4HANA Public Cloud, and that they are seeing some efficiency gains, and that they are seeing their productivity go up, and that they're seeing that it's better for them to use S/4HANA than it was using ECC. So when you have that person giving that testimonial in a meeting with finance, maybe, or in a meeting with someone from sales and distribution, it's more it's easily received, and people can adopt that message, than when it's an IT professional coming in and trying to tell you the efficiency gains and tell you how things will be better when you move to S/4HANA, because then there's still in most companies, there's still that mistrust between business and IT, saying that, oh, IT just wants to put in this new thing because of the hype. We haven't asked for it. We are okay where we are. So for us, it was very important to have that, because then we have testimonials from people in business that are not in IT, telling other people in business, yes, in different departments, but giving them testimonials of how much their work has gotten better by using S/4HANA. And it was internal people. It wasn't just people coming from outside to say, okay, no, IT just paid these people to come and tell us something good. So for us, it was good. And I would advise people to avoid the big bang and go with phases, because then you can even monitor for yourselves. Okay, we may not know how S/4HANA will work for us, but if we just go with one module now, or maybe a few modules now, then we can monitor them and get some lessons, and get some lessons learned, which you can then use to make the next implementation of the other modules much smoother and much more cost effective to the business. And then we also used the mission-led teams. And I do have to acknowledge that that's a Deloitte IP that they use for their consulting services. So basically what it is you have a team and you give them a mission. And for us, the mission was a business process. And so that team comes from, it's constituted of everyone that is involved in that process. So looking at the beginning of the process from trigger to end process, like who needs to be involved in that process for it to be successful. And then the other thing that we found was very helpful was to have people that are not involved in the process as well. Because sometimes you get so dug into a process that you're only just focusing on saying, okay, I'm doing step 2 and I'm doing step 2 and 3. All I know is that I need to do step 2 and 3 so that step 4 can, the next person who has to do step 4 can take over and continue with the process. But then if you are in the process and so dug into the process, sometimes you don't see, or you're not able to see, if there's some things in the process that need to be taken away, or if there's some things in the process that need to be done differently. So by involving people who weren't part of the process, we're encouraging people to say, okay, here's the process as it is. We know this is what we are doing, but then let's step back and look at the process holistically, and look at every single step in the process and ask ourselves if all the steps are necessary. And then, sorry, is there a question? Oh, no. Okay, sorry. So we had to step back, look at each process holistically, ask ourselves if all the steps are necessary, and then say, okay, step 1 and 4 we don't need, so we can take them away. And then we were doing that based on the SAP standard processes, because we had to align with that as moving into S/4HANA. So that was very important to us, and it was very useful. And then as a collaboration tool, we decided on using Miro. We had Miro boards to manage our Kanbans and look at the work that was being done in the backlog, the work that was in progress, and work that had been completed. And using Miro was good because all the mission-led teams could be on the same platform. And so for the project managers, it was good for them to be able to track all the Kanbans and track all the mission-led teams from one platform. So it was good as a collaboration tool, and we're still using it now to look at post-go live issues and try to manage those. So the benefits. We are estimating that we will see 15 to 18% of cost savings. And most of that, I will be honest, is non-determinant, because right now it's very difficult to measure the cost savings, and there's many factors that are involved in that. And part of it was that there was a point where we were running both ECC and S4HANA at one time, and so that was very expensive. But then looking at the plant maintenance system and looking at how everything is going there, that's the projection right now for what we will benefit as a business financially. But a lot of the benefits that we are seeing now are benefits that are non-tangible, are benefits that you can't really put a value on, just in terms of saying, like, people saying we are getting reports that are making our jobs easier. Like, sometimes it's very difficult to put a value on those. There are metrics to use that we can use to put value on that, but right now it's still very difficult. But this is the projection that we have for our benefits. And then scalability using best practices from SAP. I am a huge proponent of keeping your core clean and just using public cloud to standardize all your processes. I think it's the best way to go about your move to S4HANA. And I do understand that some companies still need that private cloud so that they can maintain their customizations. But I think if you can, as much as you can, try to focus on putting in the work to standardize your process and align them with SAP, because that just gives you a whole lot of opportunities to scale in terms of using those processes, and you can be able to use SAP in a more advantageous way to you. And then keeping that clean core, make sure that you don't have a lot of things that you're having to be maintaining and managing. Your basis team doesn't have to be always just answering calls on like the small things that are going on with code and with what you have now as Z tables and Z programs in your ECC. So it's for us, it's given us greater scalability to use the best practices from SAP. And as I mentioned earlier, it's given us greater innovation capability as well, because we can now focus on extending everything by using BTP. And BTP is great because you have your platform for pro coders and you have your platform for non-coders. And what that does for us is it's enabling the business and encouraging the business to be innovative with their ideas when they're looking at their processes and saying, okay, I know that this is what I need, and I can actually go to BTP and design an application that will do that in conjunction with IT, because now we have SAP Build, which allows you to have no code or low code application development. And so now an IT person can sit with a business person and they can collaboratively design an application that will be useful for that business person in their business process. So for us, it's allowed us to be more innovative, and it's given us that greater innovation capability, which we like, and which we have enjoyed so far. And then obviously, if you have benefits, there's always going to be challenges. There's moving to S4HANA public cloud is not an easy thing to do, and so there are obviously going to be challenges. So here I've just highlighted some of the main challenges that we faced. The one is moving to S4HANA public cloud specifically. Like I've been saying over and over again in my presentation, you have to align to the standard processes. And then for us, we had a system in ACC that was a highly customized environment. So for example, just to give you an example of how customized we were, we have, as I mentioned, a factory, or two factories, milling plants for the sugarcane. But the whole lab processes, like everything that was being done in the laboratory was there in SAP, all the data, but the whole lab process was customized. Everything was Z programs and Z tables. And so it was very difficult to manage all the time, because every week when we had to pay the growers of sugarcane and we had to pay through SAP and having to go through that customized environment, there were always going to be issues. So every week, whenever there was payment due, we just knew that there was something was going to go wrong, and so that for us, we felt like it was just too much to deal with moving into S/4HANA Public Cloud, especially if we are seeking productivity and efficiency gains from our resources as well. So it was very difficult, and it was a challenge because we had to standardize all the processes. And sometimes you have to decide that, okay, maybe some processes we're not going to go live with in S/4HANA, and we have to go do them outside the system, and maybe then just create an API and move that data into SAP. The required data for the standard processes in SAP for us to be able to do that. So it took a lot of time, and it also took a lot of effort to adopt and fit our processes to the standard SAP processes that were already there. And then secondly, the second main one was just the public cloud in and of itself, because what it means is you have given over the maintenance of the system into SAP's hands. And so SAP does all the upgrades. SAP does all the stuff that needs to be done for your system to keep working efficiently. But then what that means also is during our implementation, it was very difficult to keep track with those upgrades from SAP. So what we were finding is sometimes you go to bed knowing that things are being done a certain way, and then when you come back the following morning, you realize that no, actually now it's changed and there's been an upgrade, and now you have to adopt to something else. And then some of the configuration in CBC, that's your central business configurator, sometimes you can only do it once. And so sometimes when you are in your project implementation mode and you are getting things done and setting things up, you go into CBC, you configure something, not knowing that you can only configure that thing once, and then you only figure that out when it's affecting another process, because you configure it for your process and it was working fine, but then now another process is triggered and they can't do some certain things the way that they're supposed to do them because of a configuration that you had set in CBC. And sometimes it's very difficult to go back and change those configurations because SAP, and rightfully so, I think they don't want to encourage people just changing things up all at once, because we have to get our ducks in a row, as per the title, to make sure that we are prepared and we have thought through everything so that when we go and do our configurations, we are configuring things that are necessary for us and things that are efficient and effective for the business processes that we are looking at. So, but for us, then that became a challenge, because sometimes you do something and then it's now a hindrance in another process. And so it slows down the whole process, and then timelines and budgets get affected in that manner. And then lastly, I want to talk about the key lessons that we got. And I have bucketed them up onto two buckets, and that's people and data. And Lao Tzu, most of you will know, there's a quote I really like from Lao Tzu, and it says, "The soft overcome flexible than water, and yet for attacking things that are hard and strong, there is nothing that can surpass it." And I liken water to people in this instance. People in your organization, because it's very easy to overlook the people, and it's very easy to just say, as long as we implement a good system that works well, the people will then align to it. But most of the time, that's not how it works. And most of the time, systems are successful in what they do because the people have fully adopted them. And so like water is soft, and it seems like it's just a flexible thing that can just be moved around and it's harmless. But when it comes to taking down a huge building, water can take down anything in its way. If the situation required that. And so the same as people in your organization. you can put in you can provide the budget, you can provide all the resources and all the resourcing that you need for a system, a good system that you think is the best system and it will do everything that we need. But if the people are not bought in, people will stop you on your tracks, and people will destroy, or maybe destroy is a very violent word in this case, but like people can affect the use and effectiveness of the system. Because if they don't accept it, they just don't accept it. If they don't want to use it, they will keep using whatever they're comfortable with. It doesn't matter what system you can bring in. If people are still just comfortable using their old systems and that they've been using for the past 10 years, they will do that. Sometimes they will just do that because you haven't involved them and you haven't told them what needs to happen. And so for us, one of the things that we did was, which I think worked well for us. We had a program manager for S4HANA, and then we had 3 project managers. And out of those 3 project managers, 2 of them were from business. So one of them was from the factories and operations, and then the other one was from finance. And that's the person you saw in the video when we were going live. And for us, I think that was good for our culture, and it was good for involving people and getting people in, because having those project managers there also increased our transparency from an IT perspective in terms of what we are doing with S4HANA and how we're implementing it. And also just putting people at ease, knowing that they are involved in the process of standardizing and changing those business processes. So in contrast to 2014, where we had a whole lot of consultants camped out here, this time we only had a very small group of consultants that came in, and the large number of people that were here working through our journey to S4HANA was the business people. And the reason that was because we had the buy-in from the executive level, and then we had the buy-in from a project management level because we had people in business pushing it as well. And so everyone else was then encouraged and pushed and made to align with the move to S4HANA and put in the required effort to do everything that they needed to do for S4HANA to be successful, for the S4HANA implementation to be successful in the business. So I think taking the very concerted effort to involve people and explain to people what is happening, why it's happening, and how it's going to happen. It's sometimes it's very underrated. Like, we know it's important, but sometimes we just brush it off to the side. It's just like how in all project, change management usually just comes in at the end and say, okay, we have this change management, go out and get people to accept this change, which is not the right way to do. So we even had change management involved from the beginning, and because people are very important. And I have my second point there under people, that people are the only sustainable competitive advantage. And I really seriously believe that, because in any organization, you could be a insurance company, you could be a bank, or like us, a farm and a sugar processor and manufacturer. But in all of those companies, the one common thing that you will find, other than systems and business processes, is that all those companies have people, and they have people running them. And the people are actually the organization. So if you take the time to focus on your people, to upskill your people, to involve your people, to explain to your people and get them involved in everything that you are doing, then you get buy-in. And then once we are all in one accord, and once we are all bought into this one project and this one goal that we are working towards, then I believe nothing can stop us. The same way as with water. If it's just going one direction, it doesn't matter how big your building is, it will take it down. And so if we have people in one accord moving towards a similar goal, one goal, then there's nothing that will be able to stop us. And so I think focus on your people is very important in any project. However big or small it may be. For us, this was a strategic project, so one of the biggest projects that we are undertaking. So focusing on people really helped us, and is continuing to help us as we are monitoring and managing the S4HANA implementation that we have. And then lastly, data. And it's true now, it was true then, it will be true 50 years down the line, that if you have garbage in, you will get garbage out. And you have to focus on your data, and you have to look at what data are we taking on, should we be taking on this data? How is the data that you are taking on affecting processes in S/4HANA? Because sometimes maybe you might be in sales and distribution, looking at your invoices or your purchase orders, and then you're just bringing them in without bringing in some other related information that you will need in S/4HANA. So looking at your data, decommissioning some of the data, taking the time to look at your data and paying attention to saying, in this business process, part of the mission-led teams, in this business process, this is the data that we need. And so this is the data that needs to go into S/4HANA, and everything else that you don't need then can stay back because it will just be too much effort and will cost you too much to take it on to S/4HANA. But as I mentioned earlier, Joy on the 5th of November, and I encourage everyone to sign up for that because it's going to be a great session. We'll be talking about that data migration and the data management that we we did and focused on, and how we went through that process to make sure that we are only taking on data that we need, cleaning the data and making sure that all the data that is moving to S/4HANA and that is needed in S/4HANA is actually there in S/4HANA. And then, like I mentioned, we went through a period where we spent 3 weeks of non-stop work. And in those 3 weeks, there were 2 long weekends that were there because of holidays. But we had to sacrifice those 2 long weekends because we had to get this done. And so sometimes it's very good to do all the work and then get recognized for it. And so one thing that has been happening for us is we are getting the recognition of the work that we have been doing. And in this picture here, we have our program manager, Rob was our program manager for our S/4HANA implementation. And here he was presenting a keynote presentation at Sapphire 2024 this year in Barcelona. So now we're having a company from a very tiny country that no one knows about in Africa, in the southern tip of Africa. But then now we are getting the center stage, the main stage in a platform such as Sapphire. And that's because of the work that we are doing. And so it's very good for us to, and we appreciate the recognition that we are getting for the work that we have done as Royal Eswatini Sugar. And then another thing is that SAP also hands out innovation awards every year. And so this year they handed out 16 innovation awards to companies across the globe. And out of those 16 innovation awards, Royal Eswatini Sugar this year received 2 of those 16. And so that's part of the recognition that we are getting for the work that we are doing. And that those 2 innovation awards were in the agriculture space as well. So it's good to get that recognition. It's good to know that you're putting in long hours and hard effort, and then you're getting recognized for that. And I just want to mention that for those SAP Innovation Awards, it's something that you need to be positioned for as an organization. I think it gives you great leverage within SAP, and also just gives you greater visibility of the work that you are doing. And I would encourage everyone to try to put forward the work that you are doing, because there's a lot of companies that are doing great work, but it's not visible to the entire world. So I would encourage you to go out there, push yourself out there, and be visible enough with the work that you are doing. The SAP Innovation Awards is something that you need to apply for, maybe not really apply for, but you just need to put in your work that you have done, and then SAP, looking at all the customers that are putting in or submitting the work that they have done throughout the year, will then decide on which company deserves the Innovation Award. And it's a very prestigious award. Like I said, only 16 were given out this year, and 2 of those were given to us as well as Eswatini Sugar. So it's very important for us, and we really appreciate that. And it's also encouraging us to do more work to make sure that we are getting the best out of our S/4HANA implementation. And with that, that's the end of my presentation. I would love to connect with everyone that is here. The platform I use the most is LinkedIn. So if it connect with LinkedIn, but you can also shoot me an email if you want. And I will open up to any questions if there are any questions, Tracy.
there are 3 questions. I don't know if you can see your chat.
No, I can't.
Okay. I don't know if Henk wants to unmute himself.
That's fine.
Don't be shy, Henk. I'll read out his question. Henk wanted to know, do you use SAP IS agriculture?
In agriculture, no, we not yet. So in agriculture now, we're using intelligent agriculture and SAP for our outgrowers, and then in the next phase, when we are trying to involve agriculture and everything agriculture related into our implementation, as we did in this phase now, we haven't been using that one. We are using the system that we were using to manage the farms, and then for the outgrowers. So the outgrowers would be your farmers that are bringing in their sugarcane, and so we've availed intelligent agriculture for them in that manner.
That answers your question. Willem, you have 2 questions. Would you like to unmute yourself?
Hi, thanks. Lulu, how's it? It's been a long time. I hope you're well. Thanks for the presentation. Yeah, I got a couple of questions. The first one was around your phase 1, where you just went for the plant maintenance in isolation, as it were. Out of the amount of effort to go live, what percent can you make a thumb suck of how much effort did it take to back integrate plant maintenance to your finance system, your ECC on HANA finance system? And then, did you use BTP for that integration, or did you use the more traditional SAP process orchestration, or how did you get that integration right?
So I think thanks for that question, Willem. I think it's a good question. So for us, the main thing that helped us in doing that was keeping the main team that was implementing plant maintenance to be the one that is also doing everything in finance. So what we're doing is, knowing that there is a second phase where finance was going to have to be implemented, we were also looking at some of the finance processes as we were implementing plant maintenance. So that helped us to look at plant maintenance, yes, as we did individually, and we went live with that. But as we're going live with that, we're also forward-looking and saying, okay, we will have to implement finance in the future. And we had the finance team also helping out with that plant maintenance. And then for any of the orchestration and collaboration work that was needed, we are using BTP tools for that, and for us it's working quite well so far. Maybe we will hit a snag, but I think the main thing for us that we did was keeping that same team and then knowing the full landscape of the project, what was coming or what was to come in the future, and then that team having to focus on the now, but also be simultaneously forward-looking and trying to mitigate any of the risks that might come in the future.
Good, thanks. I'll give other people to also have a chance to ask their questions. So Eric, go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to know your allocation of your project manager's time from the business. Was that a full-time job or was that part-time?
Is both a good enough answer for you? Because it was.
So it wasn't part-time.
No, it wasn't part-time, because for us, for example, the IT resource that was a project manager had to vacate temporarily that position to focus full-time on the project management. And that was the case and the expectation as well for the other 2 project managers from business, from finance, and from the factory.
Okay, thanks.
So theoretically, it was supposed to work like that, but then theory is not reality. But yeah, it worked out well for us in the end.
Russell, would you like to unmute yourself?
Good morning, everyone. Yes, Russell Appiah from the city of Cape Town. thanks for an excellent presentation. I've heard through the grapevine somewhere along the way, and I don't know if it's still true, that you guys use SAP land use management with integration to GIS. Is this true? And if not, is anybody else on the forum that uses SAP land use management?
For us, I wouldn't say that is completely true. It might be something that we have looked at in the past, but I think maybe someone else in the forum who has more information on that can provide that information if they have used that. But thanks for the question.
Ashri Singh. I think Ashri's going to unmute himself. So I'm going to ask his question. Are you using SAP S4 EHS as well, or have you used it on the ECC platform?
Sorry, can you repeat that question, Tracy? S4 E what?
Using SAP S4 EHS as well, or have you used it on the ECC platform?
No, I think this is just my answer there would be similar to the previous answer. So like everyone who is moving into S4HANA, we just try to survey the landscape and survey and everything that we are working on. So we do look into, or we did look into majority of those processes and then majority of those modules. But for us, that one we also didn't use.
Okay. Stop. You have had your hand up for a while. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Thanks very much. Morning, everybody. It's a great presentation. I'm Chris from City of Cape Town. My question is with regard to the business process standardization. Did you have a situation like maybe between your farms and your two mills and various other areas where a similar business process may have been used, like I don't know, let's just say a corrective maintenance process, but where it was done differently in the two plants and maybe on the farms? And, you know, how did you get everybody to agree to one way of doing, say, a corrective maintenance process?
I will also basically just give everyone a set of boxing gloves, and then whoever wins the boxing match wins. So, no, but on the more serious note, I think that's part of the challenge that I was highlighting earlier. That getting those processes to be standardized across the S4HANA implementation is very difficult, and it does take a lot of negotiations with all the parties that are involved. And so, yes, to answer your question, yes, we did get to a point where we had some of those conflicting needs from the different teams within the business. But then I think the stepping back from the process and then looking at what is actually value adding in the process, and holistically as a process, what value is the process adding to the business, and then trying to maximize that value in the most effective and efficient manner. And so there's a lot of negotiations from teams and managers from different teams, with everyone having to understand what we are trying to achieve, and then trying to get a way to work with each other to standardize all those processes. But yeah, that's a great question, and I think it's part of the effort, the huge amount of effort that needs to go in from everyone to look at the processes from a holistic perspective and saying, okay, this is the value we're adding with the process. This is the data that we need to add the value that we are adding with this process. And so how do we work together to provide and add to, or contribute to making that process as successful and as effective and efficient as possible?
And that unlocking that the log jams as you hit them, was that sort of facilitated by in-house people within the organization as opposed to external parties?
Yes. So
okay.
Obviously you would have sometimes maybe because internally we might not have the full picture and understanding of what needs to be done. And so sometimes maybe we'll bring in a consultant to explain, because we'll have an idea that we are agreeing on, say, okay, if we can't do this, this is what we'll do. But then sometimes you have a consultant as an advisory role to sort of like direct us and to point us towards the right direction. But most of the work that we did, there was a very concerted effort to make sure that we are solving issues in-house, because solving them in-house also gives us the history and the understanding of why things are being done a certain way, instead of just saying this needs to be done this way, and then having business people in the dark, not understanding why things are changing from how they used to do them.
Fantastic. Thanks very much.
Brilliant. Henk, would you like to unmute yourself?
Yes, Hans, pretty good presentation. Thanks for all the insights. Been on a few journeys with S4 already. Just want to understand public versus private cloud. I know in the sugar industry, there's mill products or IS agriculture or IS mill. Did you guys take that over? Because I know in public cloud, IS is not available yet, or are you going to do something else on that area?
So far, the decision is to just go with public cloud as is. And I think maybe once then that gets provisioned in public cloud, we might look into that. But it might be something that maybe doesn't happen anytime soon, because our efforts were really just focused on how do we move to S4HANA with public cloud as it is now, and then trying to fit and align all our processes to make sense for us and makes as a business and make sense for us to use them in S4HANA public cloud. Obviously, as new things are coming up, and exactly as you had mentioned, and there's a previous question that asked about this as well, we are constantly trying to look at how we are doing things well, and how do we do things better than how we are doing them right now. But I think for us, we spend too much effort into trying to align our processes with the standard processes that are there now, so that it makes sense moving forward. So then maybe if something better comes in along the way, or we realize that something will help us to better manage that, we will definitely look into that. But to answer the question directly, it's right now we just try to focus on working with public cloud as it is currently.
So because and sadly you've got all the IS industry, banking, oil,
Yes.
gas,
Yes.
pharmaceuticals, everything, but they're not available there yet. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's correct.
Thanks for your answer. Thank you.
Then Willem has a second question. I don't know if you want to unmute yourself, Willem, and ask it.
Maybe we should just invite Willem to Eswatini so he can ask all his questions.
Willem, you need to go visit.
I'm just kidding, Willem. We haven't seen you here in a long time. You can go ahead.
I don't think he's unmuting. Let me ask the question then. Willem's second question was the creation of suitable roles with appropriate apps an easy task?
Can you please repeat that, Tracy?
Was the creation of suitable roles with appropriate apps an easy task?
Short answer is no. It wasn't easy. With moving to S4HANA, whether it's public cloud or private cloud, I don't think any of that will be easy. And it's sometimes mostly just the getting people on board and getting people aligned as well. And then understanding as well, like what are those tasks that people need to perform? What are the tools that they need to use to perform those tasks efficiently, timely, and also maybe sometimes looking at budget constraints as well. So the short answer is no, it wasn't easy, but the work of the program and the project managers and the whole team, most of that effort is just trying to deal with how do we deal with assigning those tasks, how do we deal with making sure that people are availed with the requisite tools and resources that they need to be able to complete those tasks. So it takes a lot of effort, but it's rewarding at the end when you've done it and you know that it's something that you had decided to do and working towards a goal and then finally achieving that goal is very rewarding.
Brilliant. We've got one final question from Albert. Albert, would you like to unmute yourself quickly and ask it? We have a minute.
Yes, I saw that. What integration to HR was required for the plant maintenance to operate properly?
So for our HR, thanks for the question. For HR, so what happened was there was a process already that had started for HR to move all our HR to SuccessFactors. And now we have finally moved everything to SuccessFactors, and so the integrations with the plant maintenance now when we had moved to cloud, it was much more seamless for us because we were already on cloud in terms of SuccessFactors for HR. So that's what we're using for HR, and for now, I would say it's worked out perfectly for us because it sort of like happened simultaneously with working with SuccessFactors Cloud, and then we're moving to S/4HANA Cloud. So there wasn't a lot of the tedious work that we had anticipated. Some of that was sort of like pushed aside when we had moved to SuccessFactors. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, no, thanks. It does. Thank you.
Okay.
I know we are just past 10 o'clock. Tracy has a question quickly. I don't know if she wants to unmute herself for a quick 30-second question.
Oh, it's a different Tracy. I thought you were on vacation. Okay.
Okay, it doesn't sound like she's going to unmute herself. I'm just going to ask the question quickly. I know we have run out of time. Tracy Macklons wants to know, was the project implemented using agile principles? And if so, can you provide more details? If not, do you use a waterfall approach?
So we did use an agile approach, and part of the mission-led team system from Deloitte is built off of the agile approach as well. And so having for all the mission-led teams in their own independent spaces, they were having daily stand-ups to update their Kanbans on Miro, and then the project managers will be able to maintain and manage that, and they were part of those daily stand-ups as well. And then when we were going to the finish line towards the finish of the projects and the final implementation of everything else, we were doing that as well and having those sprints and those daily stand-ups to just to check in and have everyone getting the assistance and the backing and the support that they needed. It got to a point where we were even doing like a daily stand-up in the morning and then just doing like a final afternoon evening check in the evening, sometimes at 5, sometimes at like 10 p.m. when we were working late. But yes, we did focus on agile. Because we felt like that was the best way for us to operate and work, as we're constantly just checking in and providing support for everyone that needed it.
And Tracy, I hope that answers your question. Everyone else, if you want to contact Mkhulu, his details have been shared in the chat. Please feel free to do so. I am now going to say on behalf of the Data Management Steering Committee, of which Mkhulu is a SteerCo member, and we're very proud of it. Mkhulu, thank you. Brilliant session. We have run out of time, everyone. The link to the feedback form will be shared with all. Please do complete it. And thanks again, Mkhulu. Brilliant. And I'm going to say goodbye, everybody. Stay well, stay safe, and don't forget to register when the invitation comes out for the 5th of November for Joy's session. It's going to be very interesting. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your engagement. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.